Okay, so have you ever felt that thing where your brain is just it's a web browser with a zillion tabs open and they're all flashing urgent at you at the same time?
I, yeah, I definitely know that feeling.
I swear the other day I almost put coffee in my cereal bowl while I was trying to answer emails and find matching socks.
Oh, that's multitasking mayhem for sure, a modern day epidemic.
Oh my gosh, yes. And it got me thinking, we're always looking for that productivity hack, that magic system.
Right.
But what if the answer is way simpler than we think?
Mhm.
What about, just good old-fashioned journaling?
Well, it's funny because journaling is often seen as this kind of touchy-feely practice.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is that it's actually backed by science when it comes to getting things done.
Yeah. And I've been using a Listallian journal for a while now.
Okay?
You know those journals, they're specifically designed for productivity.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm finding that some of their features really play into the benefits that we're going to talk about today.
Okay, I'd love to dive into that.
Yeah.
Could you remind us about Listallian journals for those listeners who might not be familiar?
Yeah. So they're known for their high quality journals. They come in a variety of colors and styles, like hardcovers and soft covers, all that jazz.
Yeah.
But the real magic is in the details. So think durable faux leather covers, they can handle being tossed in your bag.
Right.
120 GSM paper, which means that the ink doesn't bleed through.
Oh, that's important.
That's key for people like me who like to use all the pens.
Yes.
And also, their price point is actually reasonable. We're talking 19.95 to 24.95.
Okay, that does make them accessible then to a wider range of people
Yeah.
who might, be a little hesitant to invest in a pricey journal.
Right.
But let's move beyond just the aesthetics.
Okay.
How does Listallian specifically support productivity?
Okay, so picture this. It's Monday morning, and your to-do list is longer than your weekend grocery receipt. You've got meetings and deadlines and personal errands, just the whole shebang.
Oh, I know that feeling.
And this is where the Listallian table of contents becomes a lifesaver.
Ah, the humble table of
I
contents.
know, right?
It's often overlooked, but incredibly useful.
Yes.
So how do you utilize it for productivity?
Okay, so instead of having one giant to-do list that makes me want to hide under my desk,
Right.
I use the table of contents to categorize. So let's say I have sections for work projects or personal goals or errands and maybe even brilliant ideas.
Okay.
You know?
So that's a great way to break down then overwhelming tasks into more manageable chunks.
Right.
By creating those separate sections, you're essentially compartmentalizing your mental workload.
Exactly. And because each page in the Listallian journal is numbered, it's super easy to reference back to specific entries in my table of contents. This was a game changer for me, especially with long-term projects.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be particularly helpful for those who like to revisit their notes
Yes.
and track their progress over time. It transforms the journal into this kind of dynamic record of your journey.
Totally. I even have a friend, let's call her Sarah, who uses her Listallian to manage her side hustle.
Oh, wow.
And she has a whole section in her table of contents dedicated to it
Okay.
with entries for marketing ideas or financial tracking, you name it. And those numbered pages let her easily cross-reference different entries. It's like her own little business Bible.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's such a great example of how a simple feature like a table of contents,
Yeah.
combined with numbered pages,
Yeah.
can actually elevate a journal from just being this passive note-taking tool,
Right.
To an active system for managing complex projects.
Yes, exactly. And speaking of managing overwhelm, one of the biggest benefits of journaling for productivity is this concept of a brain dump. Have you heard of that?
Oh, the brain dump. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because it's not just about getting things out of your head.
Yeah.
There's a psychological benefit too.
Oh, tell me about it. I used to try and keep everything in my head,
Oh, no.
which, as you can imagine, led to many a mental meltdown. But then I discovered the magic of the brain dump. And Listallian's 211 pages really come in handy here.
Wow, that's a lot of pages.
I know, it's a lot of space to just declutter my mind.
Right. So for those who might be new to this idea of a brain dump, could you explain what it actually entails?
Yeah, it's basically like word vomit on paper. You grab your journal and you just write down every single thought, worry, to-do item, random idea, anything that's just cluttering up your mental space.
Okay.
And you don't censor yourself. You don't worry about grammar. You don't have to make it sound pretty. You just let it all out.
There's a sense of liberation in that, isn't there? It's like releasing all that pent-up mental energy onto the page.
It is incredibly freeing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And once it's like out of my head and on paper, it's like I can finally breathe again. I remember this one time I was working on this huge project with like a million moving parts, and I was so stressed out I could barely sleep. And I finally was like, okay, I'm going to do a brain dump in my Stallion. And it was like this weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah, that's a great example of how journaling can be a tool for stress management, I think.
Yeah.
By externalizing our anxieties, we can kind of gain a sense of perspective and control.
Exactly. And then once you've like done the brain dump, you can start to sift through it. You can identify any patterns, prioritize tasks, or even just laugh at some of the ridiculous things that you were worrying about.
Yeah, it becomes a process of reflection and analysis then,
Yes.
helping us make sense of that kind of mental chaos.
Totally. And this is where Stallion's back pocket comes in handy. I like to stick little Post-it notes in there with action items or key takeaways from my brain dumps.
Oh, that's clever.
Mhm.
So it's not just about randomly purging those thoughts.
Right.
It's about creating a system for capturing and processing that information.
Exactly. And that's what makes Stallion so great for productivity journaling. It's not just a pretty notebook. It's actually a tool that's designed to support a more organized and intentional approach to getting things done.
Yeah, it's a great example of how, like, the physical design of a tool can really influence our mental process and behaviors.
Right. Now, speaking of intentional approaches, another key benefit of journaling is its ability to help with goal setting.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is obviously crucial for productivity.
Goal setting is it's like plotting a course on a map.
Yeah.
Without it, you're just wandering aimlessly.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to be like the queen of vague goals, like be healthier, get organized.
Oh, yeah.
But then I realized those goals were basically useless because they didn't give me any concrete actions to take. You know what I mean?
It's the difference between wishing for something and actually making a plan to achieve it.
Right. And so that's where my Stallion comes in. Remember how we talked about using the table of contents for different categories?
Uh-huh.
Well, I have a whole section dedicated to goals.
Oh, okay. Walk us through how you structure that section.
So first, I break down my goals into different time frames.
Okay.
Like I have a page for monthly goals, then quarterly goals, and then a whole spread dedicated to my big, audacious yearly goals.
Oh, I like that. So that's a great way to visualize your progress over time.
Yeah.
You're not just focused on the immediate future.
Right.
You're creating a roadmap for long-term success.
Exactly. And then for each goal, I actually write it down in a specific way.
Okay.
So instead of just saying something like, launch my website, I'll write, launch my website by July 1st with at least 5 core pages and a newsletter sign up.
Oh, okay. So you're adding that specificity and a deadline.
Yes.
Which research actually shows increases the likelihood of you achieving that goal significantly.
It's like giving your brain a clear target to aim for.
Right.
And because each page in the Stallion is numbered, it's easy to track back to those goals in my table of contents and just see how I'm progressing.
That's a really clever way to leverage those journal features, like to create your own personalized goal tracking system.
I know, right? And you know what? I think this system can work for anyone, regardless of what kind of journal they use.
Yeah.
But for me, the Stallion just adds that extra level of organization and visual appeal that keeps me motivated.
There's definitely something to be said for aesthetics and how they can influence our engagement with the tool.
Totally.
Like a beautiful, well-designed journal can inspire us to use it more consistently.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of consistency, that's one of the biggest challenges people face when it comes to journaling.
Yeah.
Life just gets busy, and it's so easy to let that habit slip.
It's true. Consistency is key for any habit formation. But it can be particularly challenging when it comes to journaling, I think.
Yeah.
It requires carving out that dedicated time and space for reflection.
Right, but that's where I think the Stallion's durability really plays a role. Because it's made with those high-quality materials, it can withstand being tossed in my bag, taken to coffee shops, you name it. It's always there for me, ready whenever inspiration strikes.
So it becomes like this constant companion almost.
Yes.
A reminder to prioritize that time for introspection and creative exploration.
Yes, and because it looks and feels so nice, I'm actually more likely to pick it up and use it.
Right.
It's like a little treat for myself.
There's a certain psychological effect, I think, to using tools that we just find aesthetically pleasing.
Totally.
It enhances our enjoyment of the task, makes us more likely to stick with it.
And you know what else I've found helpful for staying consistent? Listallion actually has a companion app.
Oh, really?
I know. It's not like super fancy, but it lets you set reminders to journal and track your progress. You can even store photos or voice memos related to your entries.
Oh, wow, that's so smart. That's a
Yeah.
clever way to kind of bridge that gap between analog and digital,
Yes,
leveraging technology to support the consistency of a physical practice.
exactly. Because, let's face it, we live in a digital world, and sometimes we need those digital nudges to stay on track.
Right.
And this app actually integrates really well with the Listallion's numbered pages.
Okay.
I can tag specific entries in the app and then easily find them in my journal later on. It's like having the best of both worlds.
It's a great example of how technology can complement rather than replace, more traditional tools like journaling.
Exactly. Now, speaking of technology, one of the biggest objections people have to journaling is that it's, too slow or not as efficient as digital tools. But I think that slowness can actually be a good thing.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. Expand on that a little bit.
So we live in a world that's constantly demanding our attention. We're bombarded with notifications, emails, social media updates. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I think that constant stimulation can actually hinder our productivity.
You're suggesting that by slowing down and disconnecting from those digital distractions, we can actually enhance our focus and creativity.
Exactly. And journaling, especially with a physical notebook like the Listallion, it forces you to slow down.
Right.
You have to physically write things down, which engages different parts of your brain and encourages deeper thinking.
Absolutely. There's a certain mindfulness that comes with the physical act of writing.
Yeah,
It can help us become more present, more attentive to our thoughts and ideas.
totally. I actually have a story about this. My brother Mark is a software engineer,
Okay.
and he is all about efficiency and optimization.
Uh-huh.
And he used to tease me about my old school journaling habit.
So I'm imagining he was a big advocate for digital tools and those productivity apps.
Oh, absolutely. But then, ironically, he started having trouble focusing at work. He was constantly getting distracted by notifications, and he felt like he was just spread too thin across a million different projects.
A classic case of digital overload.
Exactly. So I finally convinced him to give journaling a try.
Okay.
He was resistant at first, but I was like, just think of it as an experiment.
Yeah.
And you know what? He was actually amazed at the results.
Really? What kind of changes did he notice?
Well, he said that journaling helped him clear his head before starting work,
Okay.
which improved his focus and concentration.
Right.
And he also found that writing down his ideas and to-do lists helped him prioritize tasks and just stay on track throughout the day.
It sounds like he discovered the power of intentionality and the benefits of slowing down to
Yeah.
create that space for deeper thinking.
Exactly. And he even admitted that he enjoyed the tactile experience of writing.
Yeah.
He said it felt more grounding and satisfying than typing on a keyboard all day.
There's a certain sense of connection and embodiment that comes with the physical act of writing.
Yeah.
It could be a very grounding and mindful practice.
Totally. And you know what's funny? He actually ended up getting himself a Listallion journal. I know, right? He liked the sleek design and the durable materials. He said it felt like a tool that was built to last, which, aligned with his long-term thinking.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great example of how, a seemingly simple tool, like a journal,
Yeah.
can really have a profound impact on our work habits and our overall well-being.
I think it goes to show that you don't have to choose between analog and digital.
Right.
You can use both
Uh-huh.
to support your productivity and creativity.
It's about finding the right tools and strategies that work for you,
Yes.
rather than subscribing to, this one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly. And you know what else I found helpful for integrating journaling into my workflow? Using my Listallion for meeting notes.
Well, that's interesting. Tell me more about how you use it in a professional setting.
Well, so instead of just typing notes on my laptop, which can feel really impersonal and detached,
Right.
I bring my Listallion to meetings.
Okay.
And I actually find that taking handwritten notes helps me to focus better and retain information more effectively.
There's actually research to support that, too.
Oh, really?
The act of physically writing, it engages different neural pathways than typing does.
Okay.
And that can lead to deeper processing and encoding of information.
Oh, that's so interesting. I've also noticed that when I take notes in my Listallion, I'm more likely to doodle or sketch out ideas,
Uh-huh.
which helps me to kind of make connections and come up with more creative solutions.
Yeah.
Plus, it just makes the whole meeting experience less tedious.
It injects a bit of personality and playfulness into what can often be like a really formal setting.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
And then after the meeting, I can easily transfer any like key action items or takeaways to my to-do list,
right.
which I keep in a separate section of my listallion, of course.
So you're really seamlessly integrating your meeting notes then into your like larger productivity system.
Exactly. And speaking of systems, one of the things I love about listallion is that they offer a variety of templates and inserts that you can add to your journal.
Okay.
So, for example, they have like project planning templates or habit trackers, even gratitude journals.
Wow. So that's a great way to really customize the journal to fit your specific needs and preferences.
Right. And it lets you experiment with different journaling techniques without having to like buy a whole new notebook. So, for example, I recently started using their weekly reflection template
Okay.
where you reflect on like your wins for the week, any challenges you faced, and lessons learned. And it's been really helpful for, personal growth and self-awareness.
That's a really powerful practice, I think. Taking the time to pause and reflect on our experiences allows us to really extract those valuable insights
Yes.
and make adjustments as needed.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? I actually have a friend, let's call her Lisa, who's a therapist.
Okay.
And she actually started recommending Listallion journals to her clients who are struggling with anxiety or stress.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. What specific features of the Listallion does she find like beneficial for her clients?
Well, she loves the fact that they're so customizable.
Okay.
So she encourages her clients to use different sections for different purposes, like tracking their mood, practicing gratitude, or just processing difficult emotions.
Okay.
And she also finds that the durability of the Listallion is really important for her clients,
Yeah.
many of whom have a history of starting and stopping journals.
It makes sense. A journal that feels sturdy and reliable, it can really symbolize a commitment to self-care and personal growth.
Exactly. And she says that her clients who have embraced journaling have seen significant improvements in their emotional well-being and overall sense of self-awareness.
It's a testament, I think, to the power of journaling as a therapeutic tool.
Yeah.
It can provide that really safe and structured space for exploring our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors.
So I know we've been talking a lot about Listallion, and I want to be clear, this isn't like a paid sponsorship or anything.
Okay.
I just genuinely love their journals and find that their features really support the kind of productivity journaling that we've been discussing today.
Right.
But of course, you can apply these principles to any journal that you enjoy using.
Absolutely. The key is to find a tool that resonates with you and inspires you to make journaling a regular practice.
Exactly. And I think it's worth emphasizing that journaling isn't just about, getting things done.
Yeah.
It's also about personal growth and self-discovery and even creativity.
It's a very holistic practice that can really enrich our lives in countless ways.
Totally. And you know what? I think it's something that everyone can benefit from, regardless of like their profession, their goals, or their personality type.
Yeah, it's a gift that we can give ourselves.
Yeah.
A space for exploration, expression, and transformation.
Beautifully said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of journaling for productivity, I want to leave you with a final thought. What if, instead of constantly seeking the next productivity hack or magic bullet, we simply embrace the power of the pen and paper?
A return to simplicity. A rediscovery of the profound in the seemingly mundane.
Exactly, because sometimes the most effective tools are the ones that have been with us all along. So grab a journal, any journal, and start writing your own story. Who knows what amazing discoveries await you within those pages?
The journey begins with a single stroke of the pen.
And with that, we'll conclude our deep dive. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and perhaps even motivating to embrace the transformative power of journaling. Until next time, happy writing.